Aqui é a Home Office, Private Living, Rio de Janeiro City, Rio de Janeiro Federative Unit, National State Brazil. Looks like that sports entity with source, I would say, in Portugal is having or trying to have a contract about set an investment contract with an American group. We had at this sports entity a contract with the Bank of America in the end of the 90s and the very early period of this millennium. We will kind of offer you as a fan. I'm not at the board as associated or something like this anymore, but you, investor, American investor, must have on mind some issues. The first one, that during at least almost 10 years all sports entities in Brazil got had sponsorship from the public department, considering one very specific bank. By this, you must request information considering the protection of data at those sports entities, including this sports entity on Rio de Janeiro that you'd like to invest, to protect the data, because we had cases of modified data in public departments. The second, and of course, that appear under a sponsorship has a minor prevalence as a decision, and then you must request and use the petition. It's a free petition as habeas data to research the health as financial records and economical records and accounts of those institutions, especially this institution on Rio de Janeiro, with birth as traditions from Portugal. The second thing is the Article 5 of Item 22 of our Constitution says that you has a guarantee as protection of your property, and we will consider this. The other element that you must have is that when you do your free petition, named the habeas data, by the Article 5, Item 72, which is your guarantee as investor, you will check the Article 217 of our Constitution, considering that it's written there that is the duty of state. Item 2, Item 1, observe the autonomy of those sports entities, but in some cases and in some areas we had interference from the chairs at the state, governments, and democratic institutions by financial choke, financial oppression, unfair ways at the sponsorship, and others. You must request and have this. And of course, present your declarations about the facts and circumstances. The third thing that you must have in mind is that this sports entity has a statement which goes, I think, that almost 1 century or more. And one of the clauses is kind of this sports entity, it's not available and has, say in a general way, has no owner. You can sell the sports entity. You are kind of having a contract with an object that is pointing to the management of sports elements and rights as image or something like this. You have the right to do this management, but you must request all those informations to your protection to protect this institution which has more than 1 century and the traditions which goes from Europe and Portugal as being reliable, have the transparency and regular things on business. Then you will check that one of the clauses at this statement is that the associated with this institution has some kind of solidarity and leading the future of this sports entity. But we will observe and we are having this issue to you request this financial information by the white collar crime law 7492 article 147 and 14 1 4 article 7 article 14 to prevent the fraud management as continuity that financial system based on an interval at the past or a current interval which has a sponsorship from public departments and public budget and treasury. Because if you consider that you had problems in all institutions from the top, maybe you will consider have this solidarity, which is a solidarity about the future of this sports entity by the writers' vote, to create kind of a decision at the judicial system that has a lot of problems to be used as by equity and have the solidarity with the associated on these institutions to cover a financial loss maybe as a possibility, and this is not for sure something that must be acceptable. In the same way, we have this very similar behavior if a bank, as a public bank of Brazil, for instance, set a new clause when you open an account or something like this, which puts the consumer of the bank service, which can be provided by a corporate bank, a mixed bank, or a public bank, as associated with loss in case of this bank have. If you have a charge against the Brazil, the bank, the public banks and the mixed bank will be kind of in some way affected by the public composition as a structural element of those institutions. And you can have this as risk compared with this sports entity, setting their investment and putting the associated kind of in a situation as solidarity to cover a financial loss created or prepared to be like this. It will be something fraudulent. It's a fraud scam. To prevent all this, you must request this information by habeas data article 5 item 72 as a free petition, considering your guarantee on article 5 item 22 as protection of your property as investor or an investor group to research the financial development of records, economical records and accounts registry, especially in a period which has associated with sponsorship from public department. And one more time, this entity is not available because has no owner. I would say is a kind of something that belongs to these groups as associated or something like this. You must take a look at the statement. And the associated are not in solidarity to cover a loss as financial loss, especially if it is something prepared to be like this. Take your time, take a deep breath, Research all things before have your decision as investment. Have a nice week.